Whispers in the woods. The moonless night blanketed the countryside in a suffocating darkness. Emma's car sputtered one last breath before dying completely, leaving her stranded on an empty road miles from civilization. She banged the steering wheel in frustration, cursing herself for not getting the battery checked earlier. As she looked out at the desolate surroundings, a gnawing sense of unease settled in. Her phone was dead, of course. The only source of light she had was the unreliable beam of her old flashlight. It flickered faintly as she rummaged through her bag for anything useful. She thought back to the faint wooden sign she'd passed earlier, marking the start of a hiking trail. Maybe it led somewhere. Maybe someone lived close by. Wrapping her jacket tighter around herself, Emma stepped out of the car. The night was eerily silent. Not the comforting quiet of nature, but a hollow stillness that made her footsteps feel deafening. As she approached the trailhead, her flashlight flickered again, casting jagged shadows across the trees. The path stretched into the woods, its end swallowed by the impenetrable blackness. She hesitated. Logic told her to stay near the car and wait for help, but something about the woods called to her. She couldn't explain it, an almost magnetic pull urging her to move forward. Ignoring the growing knot of dread in her stomach, Emma stepped onto the trail. The forest closed around her, the air growing colder with each step. The trees loomed overhead like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky. As she ventured deeper, the crunch of leaves beneath her boots became the only sound, echoing unnaturally loud in the oppressive stillness. Then, she heard it, a faint whisper. Emma. She froze, heart hammering against her ribs. The sound was so soft it could have been mistaken for the wind, but the way it curled around her name sent chills racing down her spine. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. No answer. She shook her head, convincing herself it was her imagination, and pressed on. But after a few more steps, the whisper came again. This time, it was closer. "Emma? This way." Her breath hitched. The voice was unmistakably human, yet there was something off about it. It was too smooth, too deliberate, as if the words were being stretched and molded unnaturally. She swung her flashlight around, the beam slicing through the shadows. Nothing. Just endless trees. Her mind screamed at her to turn back, but her legs carried her forward, drawn by a strange, inexplicable compulsion. That's when she saw the light. A faint glow flickered in the distance, swaying gently like a lantern. Relief washed over her. Maybe it was a camper or someone who could help. She quickened her pace, calling out, "Hello? Is someone there?" The lantern didn't stop moving, its warm light bobbing through the trees as if leading her somewhere. The whisper came again, stronger now, almost melodic. "Come closer." She stumbled forward, ignoring the cold sweat dripping down her back. The trail grew narrower, the trees pressing in on all sides. The lantern was always just out of reach, pulling her deeper and deeper into the woods. Finally, the light stopped. It hovered in the air, casting a faint glow over the clearing. Beneath it stood a figure shrouded in darkness, their face obscured by shadows. Emma's breath hitched as she squinted, trying to make out the figure's features. "Who are you? Do you need help?" The figure didn't answer. Instead, it took a slow step forward, and Emma's flashlight died completely, plunging her into darkness. The whisper turned into a guttural growl, low and menacing. "You shouldn't have come." Emma screamed, spinning around to run, but her feet wouldn't move. It felt as though the earth itself was gripping her, holding her in place. The growl grew louder, surrounding her, suffocating her. She could feel the figure looming closer, its cold breath brushing against her neck. Her scream was swallowed by the night. The next morning, hikers found Emma's car abandoned by the side of the road. The search party combed the woods, but there was no trace of her, no footprints, no belongings. All they found was a single lantern hanging from a tree, swaying gently in the wind.